First things first, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, good spirits. The album's out this week, so that's been super exciting. A good thing in a year of really weird things. So yeah, just enjoying the album being out finally and the reaction.
Right. Well, it's good to hear that everything's going well. Before we jump into the album, I like to jump back to the beginning a little bit. Now,
Mm.
this might be difficult to pinpoint, but do you know where this passion for music came from? Do you know where it originated?
Um, I mean, my dad, when he was younger, he was in bands
Okay.
at school with his friends, but not to a band to the extent of touring and making albums originally. And then my sisters as well were quite music related. They sung quite a bit, but no one had kind of been in a band or kind of pursued it properly. So I was around lots of music anyway growing up, listening to lots of different music with my dad and stuff. And then I remember I went to my first ever festival with my sister and her husband and their friends, and Kings of Leon headlined, and I saw that. Kings of Leon are one of my favorite bands, and I saw them live at that point. I think I must have been about 15, 16. And as soon as I saw them live, there was just this moment where I was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in a rock band, and I want to be on stage having loads of people sing my songs back to me as we were for them. So that was kind of the moment that it clicked. I was like, okay, because I knew I had a passion for music, but I didn't know in what area yet. So
At that age, 15, were you already writing your own things? How involved were you with music at that point?
Yeah, so I'd been in my high school with my friends. We'd spend break times and lunch breaks in the music rooms, or just with guitars and drums and whatever else there was, and we'd kind of learn songs that we loved, and kind of learn them and play them, and then we'd enter talent shows and stuff at school, and just kind of anywhere that we could play in school we would do, and then obviously at home as well I'd learn stuff myself, and I was always singing like all the time at home on my own, as everyone does in their rooms, just going for it. And then when I left high school, one of my friends was going to music college, and I still wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do after school, but I knew that I loved music, so I went along. And then I auditioned and sung some songs, and then they let me in college, so I went to college to study music as well. So it all just kind of came together, but I was just kind of just delving into playing wherever I could.
And this is something I find interesting, because I think it was in the Enemy interview that I read, where I think it was mentioned that you were rejected by labels at age 15 already. So that ambition, kind of that drive, do you have any explanation for it, where that comes from?
I don't know, really. I mean, it's like for a very long time, like ever since 14, 15, music was just something that I loved so much, and that I did every day and wanted to do every day. And like anyone, I would listen and follow my favorite bands or artists, and just be in awe of them. And I used to go to sleep every night watching the Kings of Leon live at the O2 Arena DVD, just because it was just one of the best shows, and just learning things. So I mean, I was kind of just really obsessed with music, I guess, more than anything. But there was definitely along the way, a lot of people from where we're from don't expect, or a lot of people anywhere in the world don't expect people to kind of oh, I'm going to be in a band, and kind of actually go and do it and be successful. They kind of think it's just a silly little dream, I guess. So there was definitely a bit of that, you know. I had run-ins with my dad and family quite a lot, of people, you know, telling me to, you know, put my money into better things and, you know, go get a full-time job and forget it. But, you know, I was with Dan at the time, and me and Dan were working together, and, you know, that's kind of where the Hunna began, with me and Dan, but we were under a different name. And we just kind of always had the mentality of, you know, we believe in what we're doing. And one day people will see that. We just got to keep working at it and keep getting better, because, you know, we didn't know everything back then. It's all a learning thing. You know, you just want to do as much as possible and learn as much as possible. And now, you know, years later, we're in this position, and, you know, my dad's so happy that I told him to F off, basically, and leave me to it. So
that's interesting, because how important, you mentioned kind of, I think you met Dan in music college, and how important, and with the other guys as well, but how important was it to meet somebody who was like-minded, who had that same passion, who kind of, as just like you, kind of felt some boundaries popping up, or hurdles popping up, but wanted to push through them rather than back down?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was huge, like the bond that me and Dan had very quickly, and to this day, people always say it's you know, it's quite crazy how close we are, and there's been so much that has happened, you know, even in our personal lives that we've been through together. You know, we're best friends. You know, I think because before that as well, you know, you meet a lot of people that play music or play instruments, and, you know, they're in a band or they're part of it, but they're not, you know, 100%, like, because we've been in bands before where, you know, we've got drummers or people that are playing with us, but, you know, they find something else, like they want to go to university somewhere miles and miles away, which obviously isn't going to be able to be in the band anymore, which is sad. But, you know, me and Dan were just always like, the band is the band. There's no plan B, basically. It was just that, and we believed that it would happen. And, you know, I think it's just surrounding yourself with, like you say, like-minded people that just have that 100% passion for it, no matter what. And I think it's, you know, we've known other people that have been with us and in other bands that have then not had that, and now they're, you know, not doing this. So I think it just speaks for itself. I think there's just some people that have that kind of determination.
And if we then fast forward kind of to where we are now, and especially kind of the last couple of years where you've made some big decisions, made some changes, and now I'm sure Cover You, the song you did with Travis Barker, is maybe written for a different reason, but there's a line in there: "I will cover you if I know that you have my back." So I was thinking this is about the band. This is kind of the way you went through that process. Am I right in saying that?
I mean, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I mean, it's kind of a metaphor for how much of almost the battlefield life is, and how much carnage there is, and tests that are thrown at you. But when you're in a situation and you meet someone, you know, like I met Dan when we got to college. We didn't know each other before that, and as soon as I knew of him as a guitarist, I said to my other friend we should get him in the band. Oh shit! Sorry, I just went off on a tangent there.
No, that's fine. But what I was kind of getting at, and I'm not like I say, I don't know if this is correct, but with kind of what happened with the label, that must have been a very difficult time. So is that where kind of that mentality of we're not going to back down, we're gonna finish this, and
yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, it's a song about finding someone and having that, you know, ride or die mentality. You know,
right.
Look, if we're going to get into this and we're going to make these decisions, or, you know, we're going to go down this path, and we both are passionate and agree, and we've got each other, then let's do it. But it's got to be that way. You know, we've all got to be together, and we've all got to have each other's back on it. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Right, and you mentioned going to see the Kings of Leon the first time and kind of having a feeling of that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
and then meeting the guys is a very I think early stages in the band are always very pure. So when this mess with the label happened, and you were kind of introduced to the business side of it. So what have you taken away from that whole
Yeah.
ordeal, kind of going further?
Yeah, it's been just such a crazy ride for us. We always say, we call it Hunna luck, and just even like the crew and just like people around us. It's just like it's like this band. There's never a dull day in this band. It's like there's just this crazy energy that is just like constantly, filled with lots of positive stuff as well. But it's almost like a film. It's crazy what goes on. So yeah, we had, even before the trouble with our previous label, when we were a bit older, probably 18, 19, getting into our early 20s, we still hadn't been signed and nothing had happened, but we were sending things around to managements, labels, press, anything that we could do, playing anywhere. And we showcased loads of our songs to managements and labels. And there were times where we got so close and we were like, this is it, this is going to be the moment. And then it didn't happen. And there was a lot of times where we got, I guess, fed the industry bullshit sometimes, and went on the ride and then got let down. But again, we're all like-minded people and surround ourselves with that, and that's what every time we pick ourselves up. But the one recently, again, like you say, when we were 15 and you have a dream of being in a band and doing what we do, you don't think about lawyers or all that other shit, or getting ripped off, or bad stuff. You just think about being on stage and the crowd and all the good stuff. So it was definitely a really hard thing for us to go through, to because things were going so well as well from the first and second album. The fan base has always been so passionate, and we put the fans first all the time, even though there was loads of shit going on that we could have said, no, we're not doing this, or we're not going any further until it gets sorted. We've got a job to do and people are relying on us. So we wanted to do all the tours and get that done before we kind of sat down and figured out what we were going to do. And then when we did, it was scary for sure. To go up to our label and management and say, we know what's been going on, and we don't want any part of this, we want to get out. And then they basically were on a warpath to try and end us, basically, and saying that we'd never do anything again and no one would care about us. But again, the people that we are, we've made good connections and friends with other people that we work with, which then we were in a position to talk to them and they could give us guidance and help us out. So it was definitely a really tough time. But again, we always say that the darkest times are the times that define you or make you. The decisions you make in those times and how you overcome that makes you a lot of a stronger person. So,
and I think one good thing about being an artist or being a musician, then you get to channel that energy, for good or bad, into the music and into kind of the art that you're making. So what was that initial writing process like for what ended up being the new album?
Yeah, I mean, when we did leave the previous label, there was, I think it was at least 6 months where it was kind of up in the air, because the label were doing things so that it would halt the process, and so we wouldn't be able to tour, or we wouldn't be able to play or release any music. So there was like months going by that we were like, shit, like, when are we going to be able to release music? Like, and go see fans and stuff. So that was scary. But again, so, that was kind of the first part, how do we get out of this situation? How do we keep ourselves in a positive mindset to pick ourselves up and keep going? And then once all that was over with, we finally released I Get High to Forget, which was like the kind of transitional song from the albums. And it was kind of a song directed at that situation, kind of the trying to forget all of that. So that was one stage of it. I think I Get High kind of set us up to then be like, okay, we've got that song, we put it out, the fans are here, they're supporting us still, which is amazing, which gave us a lot of confidence as well to keep going. And then once all that was kind of tied up, we luckily got the opportunity to go over to LA to make music for the first time, which was an incredible experience. And we met John Feldman out there, who produced the album, and he was a huge part of us getting through this as well, because I don't think there's more of a perfect person that we could have met to do the album and create it with, because he just understood straight away, because he's an artist himself as well, and just his energy was just contagious. And the album is a lot, I wouldn't say it's darker themed than the first two, but just purely because we make music about our life and what's going on, and the past 2 years have been the hardest time for us as a band to overcome. So we've learned a lot about ourselves and the world. It's kind of a coming of age album, but although there's darker themes in that, it's ultimately about the darker themes, but finding the power and strength to defeat that, basically.
And I think this is exemplified in the song "Dark Times," where there is that look for a hopeful note. I mean, you mentioned I see so much evil, but there's always that kind of but let's help each other. Let's not make it any worse, at least.
Yeah.
So how important is that positive aspect to kind of who you are as a band, but also who you are as people?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think, again, not just the band, but just in my personal life and all of our personal lives, like anyone, life throws you a lot of curveballs sometimes, and things that can really change your life, which has happened. Of losing people that you care about. We've been through a lot of that ourselves, so there's also those things to also take into consideration and overcome within all the stuff going on as a band. So again, we've been together now for at least 7 years as the Hunna officially. So we've really grown up together, and we've gone through all that heartache together. So that definitely helps, because we're comfortable with each other. It's like we're like a band of brothers. We can kind of say whatever's happening and kind of support each other. So I think, again, it's the energy around you, and I don't know. I guess sometimes it's been hard, and you do have to have those moments where you just feel shit, and you have to feel that. But I think it always just comes back to me is that I can feel that, but then there comes a point where I don't want to feel that anymore, and I want to do something or create something. And again, music has always been for me a way of writing things and getting it out. The song Mother, which is on our second album, Dare, was about the process of me and my family finding out that she had cancer, and her going through that, and unfortunately it beat her. But from that song was kind of my healing process, and it also means so much to the other guys in the band as well, because it's like a family. So out of the dark times, if you pick yourself up, you can create something beautiful out of it.
Right. Well said, I think.
Thank you.
When you look at, you mentioned John Feldman, and what I find, well, you mentioned him being able to understand you guys as a band, and there was some mention of, I think in the NME article, where it was said that you felt misunderstood, and that this record now will help explain or make it a little bit easier for people to understand you as a band. What were some of the misconceptions you think about who you were or are as a band, and what do you think people will hear in the new record then?
I think, we had that was again kind of a few of the things that we weren't happy with, but every time we kind of brought it up or tried to do anything about it, it was just kind of blackmail or just kind of got pushed away. But one of the things was there were so many people that were getting ads come up for the Hunna when we first started, things like if you like Justin Bieber, you're like the Hunna, or if you like Taylor Swift, you're like the Hunna, and stuff like that, which is fine. Like, I listen to both those artists, I respect them massively, but that's not what the Hunna is,
Right.
And as a band or any artist, your image and what goes out to fans or people that you're saying or you're projecting is a very personal thing. So you obviously want to make sure that it's being done right and everyone is understanding you for what you are, and not kind of, I don't know, just cheap ways of just trying to get out there, So I think, again, there were a lot of people that were kind of confused by that. We're a band, but we're not being, kind of shown as a band. We're kind of being shown as this, I don't know, some people have said to us before that they thought that we were put together, kind of like One Direction, which is just ridiculous. Because we've all, we were born in the same hospital. We live 10 minutes away from each other. We've grown up together. It's crazy. We've gone to college with each other. So
Right.
That's definitely not the case. So there was, things like that we'd hear and we'd be like, for fuck's sake, this is so annoying,
Sure.
So there's that, and then as it went on, it was even more. There was like, visual stuff here, videos, or not music videos, but just kind of little pieces of content that we want to put out on the Hunna page. But they'd send something over that we had no idea about and didn't want to do because it wasn't right. But even though we said no, the next day we'd wake up and it would be on there,
Okay.
So it was just crazy. It was like, we did have an identity, because when we spoke to fans and they met us and we spoke to them online, it was us, and they got that. And I think that's why we've got such a big fan base. But there's a lot of people that I think just kind of didn't want to know, or were just a bit confused by it all. So this album, again, it's the first time that we've been able to experiment with different instrumentation, because again, we've wanted to do that before, but we're kind of told, no, you're just everything's going great as is, you're perfect as this full-piece raw rock and roll band. But we've got so many different influences that we've always wanted to expand and experiment. So this is the first time we could really do that. And I think this is the album, like I said, it's a coming of age album. We've learnt a lot, and we've finally been able to kind of be a bit more open and free with the way we do things. And for us, the music shows the journey that we've been on, and I think it shows more of our personality.
Right. Last thing I want to talk to you about then is the song Horror, which kind of which we're leading into now, because you mentioned kind of the importance of an image, and I suppose there's some talk about social media in that song, but also in terms of the music, that's maybe I read it was somewhat inspired by The Weeknd, and then kind of had these hip hop influences, which I think, especially vocally, are throughout the album as well. So can you talk a little bit about why that hip hop or how that hip hop influence found its way into kind of the album?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because people ask, but it's something that we've wanted to do for so long, because the name the Hunna came from our hip hop influence. Keep it a Hunna, keep it 100, 100%. That's why the album was called 100 as well, the first one, because it was like, we always used to say, oh, one Hunna, and then one day we were just like, why don't we be just the Hunna? and it's, you know, giving 100% in what you do and being true to yourself, which we feel that we do. And musically, you know, it's even crazy as well, because from the beginning in America and New York, we're signed to 300 N, which is a hip hop label predominantly. You know, they got Young Thug, Fetty Wap, Megan Thee Stallion, Famous Dex. So we've been huge fans of hip hop. Me as a vocalist, have massively influenced by R&B music as a vocalist. So The Weeknd is one of my favorite all-time artists. So, you know, again, it's like we were finally given the opportunity to experiment with those kind of sounds. And I said, you know, I'd love to kind of do a track that is still the Hunna, you know, foundation and holds everything that the Hunna is, but, you know, also has these cool Weeknd vibes, but make it our own. And I think that we did really well on this album of doing that, keeping what the Hunna is as a foundation, which is a rock band, but to then put all these different influences on top. So yeah, again, vocally for me, this album is my favorite, because it was the first time again that I kind of could just go in and flow and do different things with my voice, you know, falsetto. I used to love singing in falsetto, but the previous label, they were like, no falsetto, like don't sing for, like they're trying to, you know, tell me not to do that and just kind of keep it all on up there, which is, you know, hard for my voice as well, because they're so high. But, you know, they just wanted it to be this raw rock and roll thing, which is cool. But, you know, I want to do both. You know, I want to be able to do those, you know, Kings of Leon, Caleb moments, or, you know, Foo Fighter rock and roll moments, which I can do. But then I also want to, you know, have little bits of falsetto and R&B vibes in there as well, you know.
Final question then. I would say, even though the difficulties with the labels and everything, the band was very much on an upward trajectory in the last couple of years. And like you say, the followers, our listeners, began to establish themselves. You got a good fan base. And you have a new record coming up, and then this crazy world starts imploding on itself. Did it? And I mean, there's a lot of people a lot worse off than what we are, obviously. But did it kind of? How do you see that affecting the momentum, or did you at all think about kind of how that affected kind of where the band was heading?
I mean, yeah, again, it's probably said there's never a dull moment. Yeah, so obviously we're a big touring band as well. You know, we've toured so much over the years, and that's where we love to be. We love being on stage and being with our fans and seeing everything happening. So it was definitely a big blow to have this album and be so excited about it, and then not be able to tour it and do all the normal things. But like you said, you know, everyone's in the same boat, so we just had to adapt. And as much as it sucked, it also, again, you got to try and take some positives from it. So one positive was, you know, that we were actually allowed to release more songs from the album each month of the year, which was fun for the fans as well and for us, because if that didn't happen, there probably would have been maybe 2 or 3 singles from the album, and then it would have got released. Whereas we were able to be like, okay, we want to release this. This is one of our favorite tracks from the album, and it might not have been a single before, but we could do a video for it and have fans see it before it's come out, which I think is important as well, because, you know, all the singles are great, but also, you know, when you're making an album, it's the whole thing in entirety, and there's special things on the album that, you know, maybe aren't a single for, you know, the larger sense of things, but are so awesome and special. So it was fun for us to let that out as well. So trying to take positives of it again as well. But, you know, the reaction to the album from the fans has been crazy. It's felt like such a long time coming, and now it's here. It's just been incredible to watch and see what people are saying about it, and it makes us even more excited for the next chapter of the Hunna.
Excellent. All right, Ryan. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. And
Thank you.
all the best. I hope you get. I saw a bit of footage of Transmit Festival, and that must. I mean, people shouting your songs back at you. That must be amazing. So hopefully you get to do that very soon again.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.